Hello and welcome to MFG Get Up, Tech Mahindra's manufacturing podcast. My name is Neha. I am from manufacturing marketing team at Tech Mahindra. First, let me tell you about MFG Get Up, the manufacturing podcast series, where we will bring you some of the engaging conversation from our manufacturing leaders, customers, and SMEs who will be sharing the technological trends, solutions, and use cases around manufacturing. This will be a podcast from manufacturing leaders to the world. For today's episode, we have an exciting conversation lined up on automotive aftermarket from parts to partners. We are joined by Gaurav Mishra from Schaffler and Nirupam Mandal from Tech Mahindra. They will be sharing their experiences and insights on the automotive aftermarket landscape. Gaurav Mishra is a seasoned leader with 20 years of corporate experience with deep expertise in strategy, merger and acquisitions, and digital transformation within the automotive industry. As the Director of Strategy and Growth for Vehicle Lifetime Solutions at Schaffler, Gaurav has led the APAC Growth Transformation Plan and driven the acquisition and integration of automotive parts platform. He currently oversees new growth segments, post-merger integrations, and M&A activity. His previous role include Director of EV Business and Product Strategy at Ola Electric and leadership position at Ford Motor Company and Fiat Chrysler. Gaurav is alumnus of China Europe International Business School and Yale School of Management. Hi Gaurav, welcome to MFG Gear Up.
Thank you, Neha. Excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah. A short introduction about Nirupam. He is a business consultant with 17 years of work experience, specializing in sales, marketing, aftermarket service, and legacy transformation in the automotive and heavy manufacturing sector. At Tech Mahindra, he served as an in-house expert, providing consulting solutioning for these industry. He is alumnus of MNNIT Allahabad and Symbiosis International University. Without any further delay, let's jump on to the conversation. Over to you, Nirupam.
Thank you, Neha, for that introduction. Good to have you, Gaurav, with us today. So let us begin this conversation today. So, Gaurav, you had quite an illustrious career in automotive aftermarket and the whole automotive industry. Can you tell me a little bit about your, journey so far and your passion for automotive? How did you land up doing what you're doing today in your current job at Schaeffler?
Definitely. First of all, thank you, Nirupam, once again for making me a part of this exciting podcast. So I would say that my journey in the industry has been quite interesting during the last 2 decades or so. I've worked with major automotive companies in the US, Europe, China, and India. And during this period, I've been through some interesting action, I would say, around vehicle, powertrain, and the repair and maintenance business. And I've been a part of key growth plans and the execution of some of those strategic initiatives across products and markets. And in terms of my aspiration towards to work in the automotive industry, I've always been fascinated by cars and been quite interested in how vehicles are made. While I was in my MBA in both China and the US, I've been fascinated across the US car market and also in particular the Chinese car market. And actually, I got an opportunity to briefly work in Michigan. That's where I started my career. And then luckily I got an opportunity to move to China. And during that whole decade of 2010 to 2020, I was in China, and I would find myself quite lucky to have really witnessed and participated in that whole action that was happening in the Chinese automotive industry. And I was able to witness very closely how the whole ecosystem quickly changed around the electric vehicles, around technology behind the vehicles, and the sheer scale that China was offering. So I worked with major car companies during that period, across which I was able to participate in many growth initiatives across electric vehicle programs, and also was able to participate in 2 joint venture initiatives that were taking place at that time. And then I also got a chance to work with some exciting startups both in China and then also briefly in Bangalore as well. So it's been quite an interesting journey. And then the last 3 years, I've been working with Schaffler, and as you all know, Schaffler has been driving forth groundbreaking innovations across products, and particularly in the field of motion technology for over 75 years. Asia Pacific is a major driver for growth, and I'm currently responsible for strategy and growth for our vehicle lifetime solutions business in Asia Pacific. In the VLS business, we offer a holistic approach across parts and repair solutions for passenger cars, commercial vehicles, and tractors. And besides this, we also offer through our brand Rep Expert, which is through which we empower workshops through both technical training and a lot of content and value-added services. In my current role, I'm responsible for creating and executing some key growth plans across our four business areas. Those are repair and maintenance business, the platform business, specialty business, and what we call our emerging business across passenger cars, commercial vehicles, tractors, and now two-wheelers and three-wheelers as well. And I would say that with our extensive product coverage that we offer across the Luke, ENA, FAG, and soon the Vitesco products as well, coupled with that, our digital initiatives to distributors and workshops and our platform business model, there is a lot of action and energy in our VLS business, and I'm happy to be a part of a growth region and an amazing team, I would say. In the last 3 years that I've been in the role, we've almost doubled our business in the Asia Pacific market, increased our market share across our core markets, across products. We've entered new territories. We completed an M&A in the platform business in India recently, and are in the process of integrating with Vitesco, which would further enhance our position in the market.
Yeah, fascinating. That's a fascinating journey, I would say. And what you said, about uh, the Schaeffler's new repositioning, right? So I think the Schaeffler Aftermarket Solutions has been repositioned as Vehicle Lifetime Solutions, which I think is not only a brand repositioning, it is a shift in mindset, in my opinion, because we are saying here's a brand that is committing itself to be with the customer throughout the life cycle, through the highs and the lows of the customer, provide the parts, assemblies, subcomponents, solutions throughout the life cycle of the vehicle, right? And be close to the customer. I think this is, in my opinion, a very fundamental shift in the way you are doing business, right? And interestingly, it aligns to our Mahindra Group's ethos as well. We call it as "Together We Rise," right? So very, in terms of the brand positioning, I think it's a great move by Schaeffler. And this holistic ecosystem, play this requires investment into digital capabilities, right? And you have been a part of that journey in the Schaeffler ecosystem as well. So you are leading Schaeffler Group's efforts in growth transformation in Asia Pacific. And as I said, one of the big levers for your strategy roadmap is the digital transformation. As a practitioner, how do you see digital initiatives impacting aftermarket? And maybe if you can mention the top three digital initiatives that you think has the best potential and for the most impact in the automotive aftermarket.
Sure. I would rather take a pause and maybe try to give a broader context. So I would say that even though the aftermarket business is growing, is profitable, and particularly Asia Pacific, where the vehicles in operations are continuing to grow, but at the same time there are some key market trends, digitalization, and also how the vehicle electrification and the architectures are changing. All these changes, I believe, will transform the industry significantly over the next couple of decades, and the players in the industry have to fundamentally shift and sort through different mapping strategies to maintain their market position, or to even grow it as we go along the next 5 to 10 years. And one of those four trends, as you said, is digitalization. And I would actually see digitalization as of course, it's a fundamental change driver, but also at the same time, it has opened up new possibilities and new growth opportunities for the aftermarket. It's actually a broad term and broad field. It ranges from automation to connectivity, from data-driven insights to an upgraded customer experience, and really opens up a lot of opportunities across many fields. And I would say fundamentally, some of the key initiatives or key changes that have happened in the digital space would be the following, and I will also try to give you a feel of how Schaffler has been trying to reinvent and reposition and really making an effort for the last couple of years, I would say, across each of those key areas that I'll just highlight. One is purely around customer connects and experience. So just like any other industry, the customer is increasingly asking us players to be more interactive, provide more digital means of engaging, and really providing means through which that whole interaction and the value that is generated through the interaction with customers can be more efficient. And there we've got a couple of initiatives already ongoing around. So we've got a Schaffler portal, we've got chatbots in place. We're currently also working on other location based and other marketing initiatives, so that we can maximize high levels of customer experience, just as they would experience in other industries. The other one I would say is predictive maintenance and remote diagnostics, and this is particularly important because of the change in the type of vehicles that are now coming up, especially with more software content in the vehicles. So just purely how AI driven data sets could be used to really make sure that the repairs and maintenance happens proactively, and through that again we have some solutions currently being offered, and some are in the making, I would say. Then I would say the other important piece is the data driven parts identification and discovery mechanism. You can imagine with millions of vehicles on the street, all with different make, model, variants. There are just millions of part numbers that need to be tracked, linked to that particular vehicle type, and all of this discovery on a large scale happens on a manual basis, which again is something that is a fundamental problem and also a big disruptor opportunity, I would say. And this is where our rep expert catalog comes in handy. We've been working on this for many years now, and together with our partners, we have tried to map different products that are offered on our catalog, and through that trying to deliver value to both the distributors as well as the workshops. Then I would say vehicle repair solutions. For example, tech solutions to workshops. This is where we have a brand called Rep Expert, through which we provide technical training, content, and a lot of other value-added services. And then also lastly, I would say platform business. This is where ecosystem for workshops and distributors are being built, so that a comprehensive solution could be offered, from part ordering to fulfillment and the rest of the logistics that goes around enabling that. And I would say that the most important fundamental change that is happening very quickly, I would say, is the digital consumption of parts across workshops and distributors. And I would say that currently about 1 to 2% of the overall part consumption in India, for example, is happening digitally, and that is supposed to grow quite fast, I would say, to about 10% or so in the next 4 to 5 years. And since we already have, as I said, digital interfaces across both distributors as well as workshops, it was quite evident that we were looking to sort of provide a 360-degree ecosystem which could enable and empower both the workshop and distributors, and from there drive a platform business opportunity. And this is where we found a natural partner in that regard, Coors. As you might have heard of, last year we made this acquisition in India, and with this exciting new addition to our portfolio, we are looking to really grow value for both our workshops, distributors, and also the end consumers.
Yeah, wonderful. I think before you acquired the platform of Coors, we also got an opportunity from Tech Mahindra to interact with you and your team. We have been a part of that journey in a way, right? And I know you, before you had zoomed on in the platform, you were looking at buy versus build versus acquire kind of a discussion, right? And that is where roughly around, I think about 1.5 years back, I think we got introduced, and then that from that beginning, I think we have been good friends, and and I see the growth in the last 1.5 years that Schaeffler has been doing, especially in India and across the world and in Asia Pacific as well. So congratulations on that. So that brings to my next segment, which I wanted to talk about a little bit about the inorganic expansion. So especially with the technology landscape evolving so rapidly, and so as a company, you have to also keep pace with those changes and also be ahead of the curve. And to that effect, I think your inorganic expansion, especially mergers and acquisitions, play a big part. So my query about around that is, how do you assess the potential of the acquisition, and how do you measure the performance after the acquisition is done? Not just from a financial viability, but also the seamless integration to with your overall strategic roadmap. If you can throw a little bit of light about a couple of those aspects, that will be really helpful for our audience.
Yeah. So we were looking into different, modes of really going after the opportunity that the digital part consumption and the ecosystem around workshops offers. And yes, we were looking into some build and buy opportunities around which we also interacted with you and the team. I would say that to complete any acquisition, and probably this is relevant to across industries, and I've been a part of some acquisitions before as well outside Schaffler. I would
Mhm.
say that the process probably is pretty much similar. I would say that we would start with looking into that particular industry specific, especially the market dynamics, how competition is evolving, and what are typically the needs that need to be addressed in that particular market, and what are some of those key value proposition that needs to be offered to solve that particular need. So I would say that this starts from there in terms of understanding the space, understanding how dynamic it is, how it is evolving, what is the growth potential in that segment, and once we've sort of nailed down into potential targets, then we start looking into that target's business trajectory, both top line, bottom line growth. What are some of the key drivers for evolving around the top line and bottom line, and some fundamental operational metrics as well, and in general their value proposition across that value chain, plus other things like the business model, team experience, etc. And I would say one of the fundamental things which we did, and I think is quite important, is really to map what is the value proposition that is required to offer the opportunity. And once we map that value proposition, just really confirming how does acquiring a company better solve that value proposition versus doing it in house. And I think that's where we did that exercise quite significantly. Once we understood what is required to be successful in that particular platform business opportunity, what can we do internally versus what partnering with an existing player would add. So once we've done that, once we've understood what is the strategic fit with and the rationale across these success factors, that's when we then move into the next phase, I would say, which is where we start looking at the target more closely in terms of how they performed over the last few years, how their key metrics have moved, what are some of the fundamental growth drivers for their business for the next couple of years, I would say. And then once we've understood that, once we've really thoroughly examined that, then the next step, I would say, is to check and see if the target aligns with the strategic from a strategic fit point of view. Is it really close to our core? Is it really complementing what we already offer in the market? And then from there, really align on is there a pure play strategic fit. Now, once that has all been done, I would say that's when the typical M&A action would, the later phase of the M&A action would start, which is where we start aligning on looking into their business plan, their financials, projections, and then really aligning on a business plan that we all believe is practical, is achievable, and then drive a certain valuation based on that aligned business plan. Once that is done, I think that's when the next phases would start, which is really closing out on the final acquisition process, and then really starts once we've acquired the company, we've onboarded the team, and that's when the fun begins, which is the post integration. And I would say that the post integration is probably the most important phase in all of this, because it's once you've acquired the company, this is when that phase of 3 to 6 months is where um, both organizations are trying to know each other more deeply, and while they are doing so, of course there is a business momentum that needs to be continued on the ground. There is an organization that needs to be built, and really aligning the cultures on both sides so that we can continue to drive business. So I would say yes, that's been the overall experience, and I would say that if I can share any key learnings from that, it would really be in my mind, and it's always been the same, that once you've acquired the company, once you've gotten close to a team now, how do we make sure that we work with the founders and the core team, and give them the freedom and the respect to execute the plan that we've aligned in the first place, define. So yes, that I think is probably the most important thing. Followed by, I would say that should really define which areas where full integration needs to happen, because there are certain areas where we need to make sure that it's completely aligned with the parent company in certain aspects. But there are also certain areas which could be a lighter integration, which makes it sort of enables that we keep moving at the pace that is required by the business plan, and also helps to unlock the full potential on both the sides. I would also say building up the organization and driving the culture is equally important, and then how do you drive the synergies across both sides so that we go and deliver the moat for which we got together in the first place.
Yeah, wonderful. In fact, that echoes with Tech Mahindra's journey as well. So, if we go back a little few years back, right? The whole this company Tech Mahindra was formed between the acquisition of Satyam by what was known as Mahindra British Telecom at that time. So Mahindra British Telecom came from a telecom background, and Satyam was very, very deeply involved into engineering and manufacturing and providing support to many large Fortune 500 organizations. So that is where the very large sort of an integration happened. And over the years, I think during my tenure at Tech Mahindra, I have seen at least five different acquisitions done by Tech Mahindra. And specifically, most of the recent ones have been on the areas of customer experience and how do we build e-commerce, capabilities very, very quickly, and sort of integrate with our capabilities as well. So we've been through that journey. I completely echo what you just mentioned, right? And I believe that this post-merger integration phase is where the most value comes from. It is also one of the most difficult phases to execute, right? It looks very great on the plan, on the paper, but once the rubber hits the road, there are many things that you probably couldn't think of. So how do you sort of manage around that, the team dynamics, the culture, um, and a lot of other dynamics. So it's been a fascinating conversation, Gaurav. I believe we could go on for a day, but looking at the time that we have, I would like to ask you a last question in terms of looking back at your journey for the last 20 odd years. How do you how much percentage of your success would you attribute to luck versus your personal aura and your brilliance and your capabilities?
I would say that I've just been lucky to be surrounded by teams across the companies that I've worked with, and especially in Schaffler. I've been very fortunate to be with people from different diverse background coming together, to drive the business, and that's just really the culture at Schaffler. We try to support and enjoy each other's success, and I think that's also been a part of my own leadership ethos over the years, that once you have a team around it, and if you can share what the vision is, and then if you can share it in a really broken down manner, once they understand it, then I think the journey really becomes easy, because the team believes in it, they understand their part, and they complement each other's efforts quite well. So I would say most of my success has been just simply due to the team that I've been fortunate to work with, and especially in the last 3 years, Schaffler. And this is why I would say that we've achieved so much that we have in the last 3 years, across many markets, and also going through these two acquisitions, the acquisition and the integration. So I would say that, but also I would say that I've been lucky to be around different geographies at the right time. Being in China, being in US, really opened up the horizon, and my understanding of how the industry operates, and what are the key changes that are coming. Being in China, as I said, for that decade, and seeing all of that action happening from close, and participating in a lot of those initiatives has been eye opening for me. So yeah, I would say that just being in those situations, being with the right team, and then also maybe 5 to 10% my hard work as well, and being surrounded with friends as Nirupam, throughout the industry. It's a good industry to be working with, and I believe that for particularly from the context of India, I think this is one industry which will fundamentally drive the growth of our economy. And I'm just proud to be a part of a company which is already contributing across many industries, I would say, in India and also in the Pacific market. And yeah, I'm just happy to be in the role that I am.
Absolutely. I think that sort of reflects many of my guests also answer in the similar fashion. So, of course, luck plays a big factor in anybody's growth, but you also have to have the brilliance and the competencies to take up that luck, right? So it's a combination of both. So wonderful. I think this has been a fascinating conversation, and I wish you all the luck and all the very best in your journey going forward. It was nice, wonderful having you here today. We'll see you soon, sometime. Thank you so
Nirupam.
much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Neha.
Well, that's it for today's episode. It was very insightful and informative conversation on automotive aftermarket. Sure, it will be useful for our listeners as well. Thank you so much, Gaurav and Nirupam, for your valuable time. It was pleasure having you on today's podcast.
Thank you, Neha. Thanks, Nirupam.
Stay tuned with us. There will be more episode on automotive and manufacturing lined up. See you all on another interesting episode of MFG Gear Up, Tech Mahindra's manufacturing podcast.